Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are diving into roles and capabilities. I'll guide you through user role permissions and post editing. Now let's move to this post. For instance, here's a block image post I am using as an example. This block image post was created by this author editor. I'm just copying this URL and then I'll switch my role. I'll log out from here and log in with the author role. Once logged in as an author role, I'll paste the link here and click enter. Notice how WordPress responds with, sorry, you are not allowed to edit this item. This happened because I'm logged in as an author, attempting to access a post created by another user or a user with a different role. How does WordPress determine whether the current user can edit this post? To understand this, we'll look at the post.php file in the WP admin folder. Here, I'll find the code that generates this error message. This error message is triggered by WP function, which checks whether the current user has permissions to edit the post, passing in the post ID as a parameter. This is a simple yet effective way to explore the WordPress codebase and understand how things work behind the scene. Now, WordPress directly doesn't check if the user can edit a published post. Instead, it verifies if the current user can edit a post in general. This involves the map metacap function, which maps the user's role and permission to specific capabilities to determine whether the user has access or not based on these primitive capabilities. In this case, the current user can function is called with the capability edit post and additional arguments, including the post ID. So if we are looking into this, pay close attention to the arguments and parameters being passed as they determine whether the user has necessary permissions. So here's how it goes. The current user can function calls the user can function. It uses WP get current user to fetch the current user object and it passes it along with other arguments like the edit post capability and the post ID. When you look at the user can function, it grabs the user object and then calls the has kept function on it. So that's where we are right now. Now let me explain this step by step for clarity. First, I'll add a pre-tag here to format the output better. Then I'll pass the $cap variable to see how the capabilities function is working. After that, I'll pass the user ID, which is essentially representing the user ID being passed, and the other arguments. Now this approach should work, but if it doesn't, I'll need to adjust it. Specifically, I'll pass it using the echo to output the arguments being passed. To inspect the arguments more effectively, I'll use printar. While testing this, when using echo and die in between, keep in mind that several capabilities will be checked by the WordPress for a particular user during this specific request. So I'll add this to the post.php file. I'll include a pre-tag echoing the starting point clearly to make the output more readable. That's the overall plan. So with this thing, we can easily check the exact echo die value when we refresh the page. This helps us pinpoint the starting point to investigate further. Keep that in mind before this. WordPress will check various capabilities for the author role as well. Now if you go to the class wpuser.php, you will see I have added a die statement. I'll need to remove that first, otherwise the process won't continue. This is why it's mentioned. Before this, other capabilities are also checked. From here, I'll search for the starting point. Now, if I reload this page and search for the starting string, it is here. Now, I'll explain this. For example, in the post.php file, I have declared the starting point. After that, the current user can function runs with the edit post capability. This function checks if the user has permission to edit the post. You will see the error message, sorry, you are not allowed to edit this item. Next, we are in the map metacap function. From here, I'll remove the existing debug point from here and instead add it here to see what are the capabilities that are being passed. I have instead echoed the return value of the map metacap function. Once that's done, I'll refresh this page to see the output. Alright, let's look what's happening here before this error message pops up. You can see that the function returns two capabilities, edit other posts and edit published posts. But wait a second, we passed the edit post capability, right? So why is it giving us two instead? Let's break it down. When we deep dive into the map metacap function, it starts with the edit post along with the user ID and the post ID. The post ID comes in as the first argument, that is at index 0. Now, if we look at the switch case for edit post, it breaks down to edit post, edit published post, or edit other posts. The same logic applies for edit page as well, by the way. Since we are adding a post here, it first grabs the post ID from the arguments, fetches the post object, then it checks whether the post is a revision. If it is, access is denied with a do not allow capability. That's the WordPress way of saying no, we can't grant you this request. Next, it fetches the post type object using the post type from post. Then it checks the map metacap property exists on this object. This property tells whether the post type is using WordPress default metacapability handling or not. Let's look at the register post type function. In its documentation, we can see the map metacap property determines whether to use the default metacapabilities or not. By default, this is set to false. If you're using default post type capabilities, it sticks to those unless you specify custom ones. In the WP post type class, in the set props function, the set props function checks whether the map metacap is true. If you haven't passed custom capabilities, it defaults to post or page. This is where you decide if you want to use custom capabilities for a post type, like edit a movie for a custom post type named movie. If map metacap is true, WordPress uses it. Otherwise, it simply uses edit post to see if a user can edit the post. To make this clearer, I have added some debug code using a simple echo and die method. It's the quickest way to inspect what's happening. Don't worry, I'll remove it later. When I run it to see the post type object, I'll look for the starting point and its capabilities. It shows the edit map capability maps correctly. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into how this capability gets created, especially when working with custom capabilities. Now, let's wrap up. If the post has an author and the current user is that author, it checks the post status, whether it's published, scheduled, or something else. Based on that, WordPress assigns specific capabilities like edit published post. For instance, if the post is in trash, it checks the edit post capability. If it's in draft, it uses the edit posts. So everything boils down to these status-based checks and how the capabilities map out. Alright, so we are seeing similar keys because we are using the default post type capabilities. If you want something different, you'll need to pass a custom capability type. In the next video, we'll explore how to use this capability type to create custom capabilities. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Jai WordPress!